like all the A-listers over there, and I have a feeling that Netflix and Zoya and everybody got together. So how do we give ourselves a big party? Let's just do this. That it is this big bash where all the Nepo kids are there. I didn't feel the zest. I didn't feel a kind of a zing. I didn't feel the perkiness that a film like this ought to have had. I think it comes off really sort of it lies on the screen. It doesn't leap off, and it's kind of it's so bland that none of these kids actually really get a chance to shine.
Hello and welcome to the Indian Express. Today I'm with Shubhra Gupta, our resident critic, and we will discuss the new Zoya Akhtar film that has a lineup of star kids and is being called Holiday with Nepo Kids by a lot of viewers, Archies. Shubhra, first thing first, is it an unashamed celebration of nepotism, Archies? What do you say?
Well, the fact that you have three of these kids, I actually called it Nepotism Central. You can actually call it that if you feel like it, because it has Agastya Nanda, who is, the Bachchan grandson. It has Khushi Kapoor, who is Sridevi's, daughter, Janvi's sister, Pony Kapoor's, that whole Kapoor family, and the Kapoors and the Bachchans, and you have the Khans, and there's Suhana, who's Shah Rukh Khan's daughter. So yes,
That is
of course.
Bollywood. Between three of them,
Yeah,
that's like Bollywood for you,
it's
right?
literally like all the A-listers over there, and I have a feeling that Netflix and Zoya and everybody got together. So how do we give ourselves a big party? Let's just do this. It's almost that. But I also, having said that, said that it is what it is, that it is this big bash where all the Nepo kids are there. There are also four other actors in it. There's Vedang Rena, there's Aditi Dot Segal, there is these other two. I think one of them is the guy who plays Dilton,
Yeah.
and
He's a makeup artist.
Yuvraj Mehta, and there's one other. So I think these kids, all of these 7 kids, comprise the Archies. And what I found was that there are enough scenes that have been written for each of these, characters to get that one hook, to get that one scene where they can actually, present themselves. The problem is, in the 2.5 hours that the film gives itself for the expanse that it wants to bring to us, there isn't enough chops to the writing. I mean, the writing is flimsy. It isn't, and I think the worst sin of this film is that it really does not leap off the screen, because when you have 7 teenagers, these are 17-year-olds, right? So what do we do? What do we do what do we have when there are 17-year-olds on the screen who are basically just hanging out, sort of, feeling their oats, making eyes at each other, trying to figure out what it is about hormones that are springing to life. I didn't feel the zest. I didn't feel a kind of a zing. I didn't feel the perkiness that a film like this ought to have had. I think it comes off really sort of, it lies on the screen. It doesn't leap off. And it's kind of, it's so bland that none of these kids actually really get a chance to shine. And so there are 2 things about this, right? So everyone will go on and on about nepotism and about the Nepo kids, and I think it is, given the kind of India that we are living in and the Bollywood bashing that has become, very occurrent now, it is very easy to bash this, pick up this phrase and go after it. And I just feel that it doesn't sort of apply to this film, because yes, there are these children who have these very famous genes, but man, have I seen terrible star kids. These are not terrible at all. These
Yeah,
are people,
in your review, you mentioned Khushi has a lot of verve. Suhana grows on you. So yeah, they have Agastya also, you mentioned, has some promise in him. So yeah, really, they are talented. Yeah.
No, I mean, so I'm not saying that they are the best thing, since sliced bread, but I'm also saying that they are not as, as terrible and star kids that I have actually seen in all of my years. They are, they are personable, and they do have that occasional little spark which actually can be burnished and polished and made into something. Now, will the other star kids also get the same opportunities over and over again to burnish and polish them? Maybe not. But do these children or do these young adults have that kind of little bit of a spark in them? Absolutely. No doubt about it.
They do have the spark in them. But coming back to the nepotism debate, like, do you feel we are also being unfair to them? Because at the end of the day, they are young people who are at the very start of their career. So do you think we are being very harsh while judging them? Because, anyway, spotlight is on all of them, right? And then people expect even more. So do you think we are being harsher critics than we would usually be? Or do you think...
No, yeah. I agree. I would tend to agree with what you've just said, because the the nepotism debate has actually always existed in the movies. It's not like it's only now that we are talking about it. It's not like Rajendra Kumar's son Kumar Gaurav didn't come into the movies because he was Rajendra Kumar's son. It wasn't as if Sanjay Dutt didn't come into the movies because he was Sunil Dutt and Nargis's son. And these are, stars and actors we're talking about with 30 years back, 3 decades. I mean, it's almost like it's a family business, right? So if you have a family business, your kids would end up wanting to be like you because they've literally seen it from the inside. They know what it is to be at the cynosure of all eyes. They also know how seductive it is to be in the public eye. So to have your progeny want to follow your path is in and of itself is never a bad thing. The problem becomes when there are other millions of people who are considered much more able, either by themselves or by their compatriots or by these trolls who have now become these arbiters of everything that is moral and good in this country, where they can say, oh, but because she's that one's daughter, therefore she's getting a chance. Maybe absolutely, and of course. But having said that, is she somebody that you want to cringe and shut your eyes and say, oh God? No, none of them. Okay, so definitely the first level, the first cut that you get at the movies because you are a progeny of a famous star or an actress is how the dice rolls. But after this, what I think is going to happen is the next thing that these people do, all of them, then the everything that all your metrics, all the really harsh metrics about whether they can hold a scene, whether they can hold a movie, will all become much more it will become much more pertinent, because this is a film where there are all of them in it. We are all expected to look at all of them. They are all in the frame. They all have a moment or two. They all have things that they are doing, right? What I had a problem with, I think, is literally how little they are actually made use of. It's a musical, so therefore there are all these lovely songs. No, they're not all the songs are not all lovely. Let me correct myself. There are two songs that I can actually remember. The rest of them all feel and sound like exactly the same. So I think in a musical, what tends to happen is, if you break into a song, it's supposed to be silly, it's joyous, it's supposed to be teenage stuff, it's coming of age. None of that leap. I didn't get any of that leap that you get when you see young people doing their thing on screen. That, I think, is the real problem with this film, not the fact that there are nepo kids and other kids in it.
So you're saying the writing is patchy at best, right? Like, that's what you mentioned. Also, the
The
thing,
writing is patchy at best.
yeah, and you also mentioned that you mentioned the other star cast members and who are not children of stars, like Vedang, Raina. how do they compare against the Sakids, the Agastya Nanda, Suhana Khan, and
Okay.
Khushi
So
Kapoor?
I thought that Khushi Kapoor was absolutely the best of the bunch. She really was. And I thought that Reggie, I think Vedant plays Reggie, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was really good. And so was Yuvraj Menda as this, as this really bright
Jughead, no,
young, sort of, he's not the Jughead character, he's the Dilton character, where he actually, he's like he is a mad scientist prototype. He's doing things he's creating things. He's got a little radio thing going, and
yeah,
where these all of them are, they get together to save the green.
yeah,
So basically, what Zoya has done and her writers, which is actually a smart thing, is to have given this film some political bones.
mm,
There are, if you look at it in a kind of a broad brush kind of way, you do find that there is the attempt has been made to make these people feel that there is something called politics, and that they need to be political people, because they've got Archie saying, oh, I have nothing to do with this, and everyone then, kind of burst into song and sing everything is political, which it is. But the fact is that it remains just words. You only see, attempts, kind of feeble attempts at playing that thing out in the movie, where you are, conscious of the environment. You want to save the green, you want to save Green Park, and it becomes like, environmental conscious kids, that you are minority conscious because it's an Anglo-Indian community, and there is a character in the
hero
film,
character, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, who is basically somebody who's made to say that we are minorities, but we
Yeah,
have the
you mentioned that the film has like in Barbie, it has politics in it, but it has political bones. But it in your review too, you mentioned that, but it never really is that effective, if that's the word.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I think the attempt was, I think it was a very worthy attempt to make the film deeply political, and make these young people, uh, mouth the everything is political. But I think it remains at that level. It doesn't actually become effectively political in any way at all. It just becomes something that they are trying at, like playing, if you're playing dress up, you're playing at being political. This movie remains at that level. It's not like it's not trying, and we are giving it props for having tried, because it does talk about many of the big themes that we are struggling with now. It is talking about how minorities are being persecuted, are feeling beleaguered, but they are also insisting that this is their mulk. This is a word that a character actually uses in the film. Ye hamara mulk hai, and the fact of Archie's character wanting to leave the country and make something of it, make something of himself, but then realizing it and backpedaling on it, and sort of realizing that this is it. This desh is his. I mean, so it basically, we are going, rah for patriotism as well, because India is home, and we're also saying that same-sex love is great and fine, and there's nothing wrong with it. So there are two characters who actually, have a tender moment. So there are many nice things that the film is trying, but I feel that because of the writing being, it really never sort of captures the zing that young people bring to anything at all. It's a staid, sedate kind of playing out of all of these themes, as well as these characters who have been fashioned as, Betty Cooper, who's this girl next door, Veronica Lodge, who's the sassy minx, Archie Andrews, who's, very popular, but, wants to do this and that, and also then wants to still remain popular, and Jughead, who's actually never seen stuff in his face, but he does keep talking about those burgers. But I
yeah.
wish he was sort of, one next, third thing, for people who have memories of the comic, there will be, some dissonance. But it's, that again, it's not a problem for me, because I did read those comics. I was not madly in love with them, but yes, I read them as an artifact, cultural artifact of the America of that time. And I was aware of this whole, the thing of how these us Indian kids were actually devouring them and enjoying them. But I was always aware that it was them and not us. So I think, for me, the fact that you created an Archie's in a hill station in north of India wasn't a problem in that sense, because there is Wes Anderson, who does whimsy and who does quirky characters and who does all these people who are comic book and who are dressed in candy colors. But what the film misses is making me feel. I didn't really feel anything much. It was like a drone. It went, it came, and it went.
So do
And
you
that
think
was that.
the world making efforts weren't like that great when it comes to a film like this, especially when it is creating a world which is not really true to what we think is India, right? Even when the trailers drop, people would say, "ये क्या दिखा रही है? कौन सी दुनिया है ये?" Right? Like, people were commenting on the fact that this is not India and what kind of a world is she talking about? So even so, therefore, it needed to be even more convincing. Do you think that didn't work? Like, it is very hard.
Yeah. It's a little, it's kind of in between. I think what it is that it gives us a very clear sense that this is comic book. There are the way it has great production values, and you do know that you're entering a world which doesn't exist, but also in a world that has, live action comic book kind of things that Spielberg does, where you can actually feel that this is comic book, but this is live action. Here, I think the live action itself didn't have the kind of the verve that live action really requires for us to believe in a world like this, for us to completely, suspend our disbelief, because all of those worlds make us feel. They make us, they sort of connect with us over here. It was at the level of, it was all very surface. They were saying this, and we were listening to them. They were dancing, and it was all mildly so. It was mildly engaging. I think that's the main problem of this film. It remains mildly engaging all through. It starts like this and it goes like this, and there are none of these ups and downs that you expect from a film like this. You expect from a Zoya Akhtar, who can do feelings like very few contemporary Hindi film directors and producers can. She really knows how to ratchet up a scene. So in this one, you feel like, hey, what's going on over here? Why aren't I, feeling more than what I am right now? You really want to feel more. You want to be invested more. You want to be engaged more. None of that happens. So I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. So
Yeah, absolutely. And the film also obviously will draw comparisons with Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar, the 1992 film, which obviously had the Archie's template. But then also, Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar, some parts of it doesn't age very well because of, like here, there's a clear, more feminist take between in the relationship between Veronica and Betty. They are, it's like it's more contemporary and it makes the right kind of noise. But how do you think it compares to a film like Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar, which is such a favorite of so many of us who were growing up at that point of time, right?
No, I think more than Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar, I think you can look at really Karan Johar's Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, which
Uh-huh.
is a clear and present, a takeoff on Riverdale and
Yeah.
this whole Archie
That
Veronica
too, of
Becky.
course. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
literally, because you have Shah Rukh Khan, who is definitely not 17. I mean, and neither Rani Mukherjee nor Kajol nor they cannot even pretend that they are like 20 in their 20s. Forget about, they were all way older, and this was a school that nobody had ever imagined in Bollywood. This was back in 19, what was it, 95, 98, 1998. This film came out, and all of us said, "Kya hai ye? Kaun sa school hai?" But if you see the drama, the inherent drama in the situation, which is cheesy, but it is very effective. All right. So here, I'm not saying that, cheesy is not good or cheese. I'm not judging cheese. If you can do cheese well, I think you can do mainstream cinema really well. But here, none, like I said, I mean, Jojita Vai Sikandar is much more like a, the teenage sport kind of trope where whoever will come first, and there are the girls and the boys and everything. But more than JJWS, Jojita Bai Sikandar, I really thought of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai as a comparison, which was, highly politically incorrect, because if you have a tomboy, she will not get the man. If you have a a curvy, a lovely looking girl who will bat her eyelashes, she will get the girl. And in the second half, when Kajol does move from tomboys to chiffons, she gets the man. And Karan now has, of course, multiple times has said, that he didn't know any better. This is a gang that knows better. I
Yeah.
mean, these are people who've been doing this over and over again. And in something like a Dil Dhadakne Do, for example, I mean, Zoya's feminist cred is so strong that, she gets all these women so right. And here also, they have a scene where these two, Betty and Veronica, saying, "Hey, I know we are in and to each other. We complete each other.
What we
We don't
share is
need
more
anyone."
important than what we, yeah, like, than a
Yeah, and
guy.
this Archie is incidental to our this thing, which is great,
Just
which is
great.
great, but it doesn't make me say yay. you know, they've said it, they've said their lines. They are actually reading from a script.
It's like more like
All of
ticking the box, right? Even the queer angle, I felt it was great that the queer thing happened. No spoilers, but there is a queer angle. But it's more like a ticking a box for me. Like it felt like just it's a tick in the box. Great scene, but still a tick. That
it,
nothing more.
great scene, but where does it go from here?
Yeah.
You're putting it in because you want to put it in because it's a thing to do. But what are you going to make of that scene? Nothing. What are you going to make of that sit in? This movie is set in the early 60s, 5 years down the line. There was going to be Woodstock, right? Where all these American kids were all, sit in, lie in. That was a protest of to beat all protests. It foreshadows that, but there is the impact that we want from a film like this, from a Zoya film, from a Rima Kakti film, from a film like, from filmmakers like this, that is missing. And that is truly tragic. I mean, that truly really makes this film so much less than it could have been.
Okay, on that note, I think we can sum up this conversation by saying this film could have been so much more, and so much more, definitely more than Nepo Kids Festival. But it's as Shubhra says, it is not just a Nepo Kids Festival. It's more than that, but still, it could have been so much more. And if you if you've watched the film on Netflix, do comment below and let us know what you thought of it and what you thought of this discussion. And thank you for joining us, Shubhra. And thank you all for joining the Indian Express. Thank you.